Hi there friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today we're going to make a Scandinavian Sweeties 4th of July gnome. If you would like to make him, boop, stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. Now, speaking of crafting, we're going to make this guy. He stands between 10 and 12 inches tall, depending on the hat, and we're going to make an applique on his bum. You can also make this a no-sew gnome by building it on a cone. Okay, so we're going to start with the Scandinavian Sweeties pattern. The link will be down below. I cut a body, a base, 2 arms, 2 mittens, and a hat. I did change the pattern to the hat. I just added a 1/2 inch to the base and rounded off this edge. Now in this pattern there's multiple extras like the mittens and feet, but this I just made a heart out of the hat cast-offs, and then I put it 2.5 inches in from the left and about 1 3/4 inches up from the bottom, and then I just top stitched it on. If you don't have a sewing machine and you're putting this on a cone, fabric glue will work. Speaking of fabric, I am using some jegging material. There you go, look at it. So I have a little bit of stretch in mine. I have made this thing with cotton, with fleece, pretty much minky. I've made it with everything. If you need a detailed tutorial on how to put the base on, go to the Scandinavian Sweeties pattern for this farmhouse gnome. I provide you all the detail you need if you are a beginner. If you are new to sewing, here's what we're going to do. We're going to use about 1/4 inch seam allowance. We're going to start and reverse our stitches to lock them in. And then we're just going to go all the way around this circle. You're going to move the body out of the way a couple of times as you go around. At the end, you're going to start or join up to where you started and then back stitch it to lock it in. Make sure your seam is flat and move on. Next up, we're going to sew the arms. I'm using the same jegging material. You can use fleece, you can use cotton. And then we're going to sew the mittens. Also in that farmhouse tutorial, if you are a beginner, I actually recommend drawing the mittens onto 2 pieces of fabric, just pinned together, and sewing it before you cut. If you're not new, you can do this. It's about 1/16 of an inch seam allowance. All right, so the hat, I did not hem mine because I wanted a certain like really bulbous, scrunched up look. So I just hemmed down the side, or sew down the side. Okay, so we're going to turn everything out now. The mittens are the only tricky part because they're so small. So I used a dowel, and then I used a smaller dowel on the thumb, rubbed them between my fingers to get the seam flat, and then moved on to everything else. So here I'm just going to use a dowel to turn out the arms because I don't know where my fabric turner thing is. I have a messy craft room. All right, and then the tip of the hat is next, and set that aside. Go to the body. So I did use the smaller dowel to poke out the body tip and then turn the whole rest of the body outside right. Run the seam along my finger, smack it on the table apparently, and now it's time to start assembly. For the arms, I just stuffed them with polyfill. You can use the same 12 gauge wire, loop one end that will go into the mitten, and then leave about 1/2 inch unstuffed at the top so everything will be flat upon assembly. I put the seam in the middle and then of the back, and then I put the arm with the stuffed end into the mitten. So we're going to repeat that, but I want to say one thing. If you want to stuff the mittens, go ahead and put 2 small beads of glue right in the middle of the front and back. Then take your polyfill and use something small to stuff that thumb and your hand, because everybody wants to squeeze the little thumbs and be like, oh, so cute. And you want them to bounce back, so hence the polyfill. Now you can glue that all the way around, or you can do like I did, and I had some red embroidery thread on my craft table, red, black, and white apparently, and all I did was I made a knot, like a double knot on the front, but I didn't want a big bow or anything, so I flipped it over and made a double knot on the back, and then I secured it with the little hot glue ball trick. So I don't know if I've shared that before. I'm sure you all know it. I just make a little hot glue ball, and then I crisscross the remaining thread here over and press it into the ball. And then you can see once it's dry, you just clip off that right next to your glue ball. And it's done. And then I just repeated it so it would match. But you know what would look really cute is some rickrack. Do y'all know rickrack? Anyway, now I have 2 little cute arms. So let's move on. Okay, so I'm using 1 cup of poly beads. They are non-odor, non-moisture absorbing, and I'm going to put that into the base of my No I'm Not. That was me spilling it. Okay, so moving on, because that was frustrating, I'm going to take 13 inches of floral wire. I'm using 12 gauge. I'm going to roll one end over the dowel, and then I'm going to turn it 90 degrees, and then I'm going to place it into the body of my gnome. Once I have it in there, I'm just going to check my height to make sure that 13 inches was in fact still correct, and I'm going to roll the tip of the tippy top of the hat so it does not poke through anything. And now I'm going to finish stuffing it with weight and polyfill. Do y'all ever do that? Just dump this stuff all over your craft room? I do it a lot. Okay, so we're going to stuff, but if you're crafting along with this instead of watching it all the way through, I'll tell you to stop, because we're going to have to hide and secure that wire. And you may be thinking, but it's already hidden, it's inside. True, but wires have a tendency to roll around inside the body, and that's what we're going to stop. So we can see the wire here. We're just going to make sure our polyfill and our fabric is out of the way. Get our hot glue finger protectors, and then we're just going to make a little channel, and in this channel is where we're going to put this wire, because we still need to sew up, or you can hot glue this opening. So what we're going to do is you're not gluing the wire to the fabric, you're actually just gluing it inside that little channel so it stays put, because when we sew it up, we're going to sew under that little channel so we can be sure to grab it. So before we sew it up, we're going to make sure it's really stuffed well, and we're going to roll it in between our hands to distribute that polyfill. I get asked a lot about when to know how much polyfill to use. If you squeeze it and it bounces back to its original shape, that's how much polyfill you need. I'm a glutton for punishment and decided to hand sew up this opening. I know, I'm really bad at it. Don't look at me, I'm probably doing it wrong, but it makes it, okay? Just in case you were wondering, it doesn't bust out or anything, but all I'm doing is going under that channel we made, and I'm just going to sew this up. I looked on the time clock and it took me a whole minute. Okay, so now we're going to slip on that hat, lining up the seams and pulling down the top of that hat all the way to the tip of the body, because we don't have any additional stuffing in this hat. You're going to just play around with it, get it to the height you want, and then we're going to cut our beard material. If you've never cut faux fur, I have a video for you. However, you can use anything, yarn, doll hair, hair wefts, anything. So all I'm doing here is pushing up the hat to make sure I have a place for my nose, just like kind of an idea. And then I'm going to secure temporarily the hat so I can pull and yank and move everything. I tuck under that hem and then pin the hat in place in the back. And now I'm just going to put these arms on, and this is optional, but I like to pin the arms on just to make sure that I get everything the right in the right place, because I've made gnomes with mismatched length arms before. So this is how I get around it. I just pin them in place, move them around, make sure I like where they sit, and now you can see I pulled them a little to the front, and now I'm going to glue them down. So I glue the arm to the body, and then I will glue that inside piece so it lays flat. Remember the part we didn't put any stuffing in? That's now going to lay flat. And I just flip it over and do the same thing. It's not so exciting. Okay. Now that that's done, I actually shortened my beard because I didn't want a wraparound beard, and I cut a V shape very wide, more like a U. And you can see I'm going to brush it out, and I'm going to drop it down a little bit so my nose is going to be right where that pin was. I like to put a bead of hot glue at the top and then make sure I like the placement and it's even before gluing down the bottom. And now we can do the nose. So just split the fur to its fabric backing, add a generous portion of hot glue. Generous. And then give it the most intense nose boop ever. Squish! Once that's done, we're going to roll under the tip of the hat. If you're using a trim, you can skip this part. But I am not, so I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue and place that right on the top of the nose. I'm also going to glue right behind this beard, but before the arms, so I'm going to glue the hat right there to that body. And the other side. And once that is all anchored, you can turn it over, and then I'll do two things. I'll just secure that hem so it doesn't come undone, So that's the first little bit. And then I will make a very big line of glue down the seam so it's all hidden. Tuck everything up under and then place that down. Isn't he cute? Now mine is not decorated because I had this adorable little pinwheel. I do give it the drop test, pick it up by the hat, drop it, and now it's time for you to decorate. What do you think of this little guy and all the little details like extra mittens and feet? Get the pattern down below. Let me know in the comments what you think. And please like and subscribe for more crafty fun.